All right, good afternoon and good evening, everybody, and welcome to the May 13th, 2024 meeting of CCL's Electrification Action Team, and jointly today with our Youth Action Team. And we're going to be talking, this is the third in a series of workshops that we're doing on outreach and engagement in our communities around the country. And this week, our focus is on working with schools and school districts for decarbonizing and electrification resolutions, policies, plans. And we have a great set of 3 youth presenters from school districts around the country who will show us how they've been engaging with school districts. And we have some school district executives. So it's going to be a great connection. We've got people trickling in. It's right at the top of the hour, so we'll wait about 1 minute before we actually get started. Let's see. I am going to share slides now because I have a couple of introductory things. So let me do that. And we should be seeing the title slide, Engagement, Outreach, and Coalition Building. Can I get a thumbs up on that, please? All right, I'm seeing a couple of thumbs. Thank you very much. And so I've said most of what's on this slide already, but importantly, welcome to everybody that's joining. Please do go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. And youth attendees, if you haven't already filled out a photo release for CCL, please follow this QR code or the bit.ly link and download that, print it, and have your parent or guardian sign it. We want to make sure that we have permission for publishing video and photos of any youth that are participating. If you don't have that and are unable to get it signed and taken care of, please just leave your video turned off and we won't be able to see your smiling face. But thank you for joining us. And all right, so we have this evening youth presentations from Cincinnati, Ohio, Los Alamos, New Mexico, and Novato, California. And then we'll talk a little bit about a real world experience and some value that we think the approach by Rewiring America provided in a previous engagement. So with that, let me pause and take a look at the participant screen. Okay, we have 25 of us on so far. Again, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. And I'll pause before we dive in, see if anybody has any questions, and then we can get started. Okay, and I don't see anything, but for my fellow electrification team co-leads, if you all can keep your eyes on the chat, please, and on participants, monitor for questions or anything, and feel free to break in if that needs to be done. Let's see, a couple of other welcomes before we get started. I mentioned earlier that we have a couple of executives here with us tonight, and so we're expecting, and I don't think I see him yet, school board member Mike Morosky from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I do see and welcome and thank you, Alan Rising. He's the Senior Business Administrator for Long Beach, California School District and oversees the facility department in that role. So welcome, Alan. And we may also have Principal Mitch Green from an elementary school in Gwinnett County, and Jay will keep an eye and let us know if that happens. Okay, that's enough. Let's go ahead. Sharon, why don't you kick us off, please, with the Great School Electrification Challenge.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much, Pete and Electrification Action Team for inviting the National Youth Action Team to this workshop. I spoke to your team, I don't know, about a year ago, I guess it was last summer, about just as our Great School Electrification Challenge was launching. And and we launched it in response to CCL's official expansion into the work of building electrification. So it's really fun to be back about a year later to give you an update as we wrap up round 1 of the challenge and launch round 2 of the Great School Electrification Challenge. Next slide. So for background, here's how we explain the issue we're trying to address. So let's think about school buildings in your city, your town, your state, and then the entire country. And consider how many heating and air conditioning systems there are, how many cooking appliances, and how many lawnmowers. And then think about the school buses, the many miles that they transport students back and forth. And then take a moment to visualize the buildings and the houses all across the country and all the the buildings and the school buildings and the buses 5 days a week, 9 months a year or more. And then according to the K-12 Climate Action Initiative, schools are one of the largest public sector emitters of, consumers of energy. And then annually, they're huge emitters of carbon emissions. So if you'll click the slide, we've got an equivalent of 18 coal-fired plants and 15 million cars every year. Right, so next slide. So what if we could reduce greenhouse gas emissions, promote the health of students and staff, improve air quality, and create resilient energy systems overall? And that's what the Great School Electrification Challenge aims to do. Next slide. So here's how it works. We have students in a school district with a supportive sponsoring adult. And the teams work at many levels to urge the school board to pass an Electrify Everything resolution. In our guide to the challenge, our National Youth Action team provides the steps for developing and preparing a resolution, building relationships with the school board, and building public support for the resolution. And we do that, those of you who are CCLers, we do that based on the 5 levers of building political will. So we've gamified the campaign so teams can earn challenge points for the actions that they take as they work on their resolutions. It's not a heavy competition, but it makes it more fun. Just adds that sense of I don't know, just fun. So our National Youth Action team provides information and support every step of the way. We provide trainings and consults and constantly looking for more information and providing it to our teams. All right, next slide. So round 1 started April 1st, 2023, and has just ended on April 30th of this year. We had 13 teams in 12 different states, and they accomplished a total of 160 actions that they actually logged. We know that there was more. We just had some trouble getting some of the teams to log their actions. So I would guess it was upwards of 200 different actions. We had logged 20 presentations to school boards and 15 meetings with school board members individually, and that's sort of what we consider to be our lobbying lever. And then we had 5 meetings with community leaders. And so that's, of course, the sort of the grass tops lever, 6 LTEs and op-eds. There were probably more. And that, of course, is our media lever. And then 14 different community outreach events like tabling, presentations, movie nights, art shows, all kinds of different ways to reach out to the community as our grassroots outreach. Next slide. And in March, we had our first resolution passed by a school board in Cincinnati, Ohio. And Sophie here is going to tell you a whole lot more about that in a little bit. Next slide. So our first round, or round one, concluded at the end of April. And last week, we awarded prizes to the top prize winners. The Tahoe Youth Action Team had 1,100 points, and followed closely by Dallas-Fort Worth Jen Green team. And in third place, not too far behind, was the Los Alamos Eco Club, and you'll hear from them here tonight. And we were just so impressed with the Cincinnati team, we decided to add an honorable mention because they were the ones that actually achieved the resolution. But it's important to note that these awards were not for outcome, but for effort and for action. Because as we all know, pulling all the 5 levers to build political will it's so critical, but it takes substantial advocacy and often a lot of time and persistence. So a lot of the teams will continue on with the challenge just to keep going, but we wanted to stop after a year and award prizes. All right, next slide. So round 2 is started on April 1st, and we currently have 12 teams registered with several more on the horizon. And registration will stay open through the summer. And here's how you can register on our website, youth.citizensclimatelabbie.org/school-electrification. And I wanted to mention that over this past year, we ran into several school systems that the students started out and they realized, oh, there's already a resolution in place. And so this year for round 2, we've created a part of the challenge, which is for those school systems. So for beyond resolutions. So you can either advocate for the passage or to encourage a school system once they've made the commitment. Sometimes it takes some encouragement to get it to be implemented. So there's a role for students to play in that kind of advocacy. So we've learned a lot along the way, and undoubtedly we'll learn more. And we're really excited to see what round 2 brings us. So I'll turn it back to you, Pete.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Sharon. Really appreciate it. And I did see that during that interlude, we had one of our VIPs join us, Principal Mitch Green from Gwinnett County, Georgia. Hello. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Green. And with that, let's go ahead and move on to Cincinnati and Sophie Crum and Audrey Simon. I don't know if I saw Audrey on, but Sophie, go ahead and take it away.
Hello, so my name's Sophie Crum, and I'm a junior at Walnut Hills High School. Audrey Simon is the co-president of Walnut Hills Sunrise Movement, but she cannot make it just due to AP exams and other schedules. But she was on the National Youth Call this weekend, and she did a great job. So the Electrify CPS campaign was born from my club at my school called Sunrise Movement. So Sunrise Movement is a national youth climate political organization similar to Citizens Climate Lobby in that it promotes the mitigation of climate change through policy intervention, but Sunrise Movement is only youth led. There are no older adults. If there are adults in Sunrise Movement, they are around the ages of 18 to 25. So at Walnut, we started Sunrise Movement not really knowing exactly where we wanted to take it. We just knew that we wanted to have a club at our school, which is a very big high school of 3,000 kids, that had to do with the political action side of climate change. But we got really lucky in the fact that just through people I knew, I got to meet Chris Heckman, who is a local Citizens Climate Lobby volunteer. And he introduced Audrey and I and our club to the school electrification challenge. And that's why we started it. So we started this challenge about a year ago, and we have completed the first round of it quite fast, which is due to other factors, which I will discuss later. And we are quite lucky for our situation too. So one thing that's special about the Electrify CPS campaign is that it is an intergenerational movement, with Citizens Climate Lobby being a majority adult-led movement, helping our Sunrise Hub, which is primarily youth-led. So to have adults and youth meet at the same level to fight for the same thing is quite special, due to the fact that climate change is an issue that every single generation of the world will have to face. You can go on to the next slide. So pretty much, Sunrise Movement Walnut Hills met with our Cincinnati Public Schools District School Board 3 times this year. The first time we met with them, we introduced the idea of passing a resolution. We let CPS know that we existed and that we wanted them to have future policy that would promote electrification in the school district. We heard from Chris about a year ago that when he had tried to promote a very similar idea to the school board, but just as him and a group of parents, he was told by the operations manager that this idea would work, but only if students presented it alongside the adults who were knowledgeable in the field, due to the fact that the school board wanted to see students as concerned individuals about this specific movement. So we got very lucky to have a board member who was willing to be what he calls our climate champion. And if he is here, hello, Mike Morawski, but if he is not, that is also okay. So our board member, Mike Morawski, took it upon himself to help, I guess, pressure his board to think about our resolution as possible future policy. And with his help, we were able to get the resolution we were able to have our resolution get a bigger focus than it probably would have with the whole school board. So we were really lucky with Mike's help to get the resolution to go to 2 subcommittees, both the policy and the administrative committee, which had some of the most influential players of our huge school district in these committees. On the bottom left, you can see Audrey speaking in front of the policy committee about why our resolution is important and why it should be passed. So our resolution highlights the fact that although it would be amazing and very vital to have CPS transition to 100% renewable energy as soon as possible, we know that financially and just realistically, it's not that possible to do that. So what we're focusing on is making the resolution part of a stepping stone to 100%, where the next time that CPS needs a new appliance or needs to renew its power purchase agreement, the resolution requires it to always consider renewable energy. But from what the board members told us in our final school board meeting, we need to make sure that we hold them accountable, that they will always focus on renewable energy. Even if it's not financially the best decision in the moment, it pays out in the end. And that we, as their students whose future depends on the mitigation of the use of fossil fuels, we must pressure our adult leaders to make the choices that are best for our future. You can go to the next slide. So one thing about Cincinnati Public Schools and what was so lucky for us is that the school board genuinely cared about our issue. They wanted to see the resolution passed, and they wanted to see it passed fast. And that wasn't just Mike Morawski, it was all the board members. And because of that, it only took us 3 times to go to the board and to get it passed. And the third time they passed it, it was a unanimous vote. And they even were kind enough to push it to near the front of the meeting so we could go home and complete our homework, which is very helpful for students who have very busy lives. But I understand that this is not the case with every school district. I went to a Zoom call a few months ago and I heard from a very hardworking group of students, I think in Dallas, Fort Worth, who had done exponentially more than what our club does, but still struggled on passing a resolution because of the harder political environment in Texas. But luckily, Cincinnati is a city that really wanted to focus on making sure this would be policy for its future students. The best thing I would recommend for connecting with doing community outreach is emails, because due to just sending emails to people who I thought were interested, my club was able to get a big group of people who wanted to go to our meetings and cared about what we were presenting. This included just parents, teachers. We reached out to professionals. One of our most helpful supporters was a doctorate of physics who was also a permaculture expert, and she came to all our meetings, spoke for us, helped us out at our club, and we wouldn't have had that if we hadn't just sent cold emails. You can go to the last slide. One of the coolest things that our club got to do this year, and because of emails, is that Audrey and I got to do a presentation at the Midwest Regional Sustainability Summit, which is the largest sustainability summit in the nation. So we did a 5-minute presentation right before the keynote speaker of the whole summit. So that meant that everybody was there to watch us. And we even got them to do this mantra about being a visionary at the end. It was very cool. But we got to do that because we decided to just email the people leading the summit, and they were able to get us in their program. You can see the physics doctorate standing next to us in that photo. So right now, our next focus for the rest of next year is to help another school promote their own resolution, but also hold our school board accountable for the resolution that was passed so the future CPS districts can have renewable energy. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thanks very much, Sophie, and please congratulate Audrey and thank Chris Heckman. Just one check. I don't think I see board member Mike Morawski on tonight. We were hoping he might be able to be here. Mike, if you're there, please raise your hand. No. But as Sophie said, he was a champion. I was lucky enough to be invited in as a sort of advisor from CCL to help, and it was really inspiring to see the couple of meetings that I participated in, and the meetings with the youth and the local team to try to help them. All right, well then, very next we have Los Alamos, New Mexico, and let's see, we have Charlotte Butcher and Ariane Terrones, who are both seniors at Los Alamos High School, and they do not have a resolution in hand yet, but they are in process. And so Charlotte and Ariane, please go ahead.
All right, well, thank you all so much for having us. We're super excited for this opportunity and to give you a little bit about our club and our efforts this year. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So I'm Ariane Terrones. I am one of the co-Eco Club presidents for this year, and I'm here alongside my other co-presidents.
I'm Charlotte Butcher, and I'm also a senior at Los Alamos High School, who's been working with electrification throughout the school year.
If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So first, I'll talk a little bit about our resolution itself. So our club members have constructed and presented a resolution to the LAPS School Board, Los Alamos Public Schools School Board. The main points of a resolution included committing to buying electric buses and campus vehicles and encouraging Los Alamos County to install charging infrastructure. This is because our buses are actually stored and parked on county land. So this really involved a relationship between us and the school board and the county to allow us to use that land to build the infrastructure to charge the buses. Next, we want to commit to energy efficient electric HVAC systems and electric appliances in all new construction or major remodeling projects. And Sophie touched on this a little bit in her presentation, that our goal isn't to change everything we have now. It's to, when we have new construction or we need new appliances, that we're really replacing those appliances with electric systems. So in the future, we can continue to eventually create a fully electric school. And next, we want to create a position of energy and sustainability manager to oversee and reduce energy use, also to push forward renewable energy projects and apply for grants and fund projects. This was really important to us because we wanted to have a professional to be able to consult and guide us in these efforts, because this is a hefty resolution. It requires a lot of change, and it will require a lot of consulting, especially with professionals, to help us go in the right direction and make sure we're getting the right systems for our specific school district. And finally, we wanted the school board to keep in contact with LAHS Eco Club. This has been a long journey and a lot of work from our club and our club members. And so we're really passionate about, as Charlotte and I leave, that these efforts continue and that the club is consulted with all these matters, because really we want students to have the opportunity to advocate for the environment and also be involved and find something they're passionate about. So next slide, please. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our presentations. So one exciting presentation we had was our district senator, Leo Jaramillo, and our Los Alamos Public Schools School Board president, Antonio Jauregui. So we invited, Charlotte actually emailed the senator and invited him to this meeting, and he was so gracious, and he came and he was so supportive. And he actually promised us, if our resolution is passed in the future, to provide us with one electric school bus, which was incredible, as well as a grant writer, which we will need. So we were so grateful for him and so excited about that opportunity. Next, we presented to the school board, but they did not vote. Charlotte is going to go a little bit into some of the challenges we had with that, because it was a lot of effort creating that presentation for it not to be voted on, but we're still excited in our efforts, and we will continue this next year. And finally, continuing our contact with the school board and planning to present with a vote from the school board in the fall. And Samuel and Samuel's the next Eco Club leader. We have a connection to the school board because we are both student liaisons. And so that has really helped us in our efforts to connect with the school board. We attend all the meetings. I give weekly, or I guess monthly, updates about what's happening at the schools. And we're able to not only give our input at the school board meetings, but we're really able to connect with them and create a relationship with the school board members before we present. So next slide, please.
We have had some concerns from our community members in the school board, and we kind of want to share what the main ones are. And a lot of it was the school board was concerned about the money and the affordability for electrification, and also about the school buses. We have about 26 buses, but only 15 to 20 are used regularly. And these buses are placed on Los Alamos County land, which we do need approval from the county to install charging infrastructure, in addition to the LAPS school board approval. And our buses were just replaced a year ago, and they can only replace them every 12 years. And in addition to concerns, we have had some difficulty in the process, and here are a few examples of difficulties that we are facing. Some of it is our district staff and school board haven't been the most reliable. Some have not shown up to meetings, and others are just completely ignoring all emails we send. And another difficulty is the school board liking and appreciating our work, but not actually wanting to do the work to help us or make the change. And lastly, our facilities director is like disagreed with our proposals and also not wanting to change anything in the district. Next slide, please. So I kind of want to talk about a little bit of the other work that has helped us in the electrification process. So one of the first things we did is we partnered with our elementary school's Global Warming Express Club, and this has helped us gain more support and help involve the younger youth in our community. Another thing we did is a few of our members attended the Green Schools Conference in Santa Fe, New Mexico this year, and this helped us also gain more support, outreach, and help us learn more about electrification in the educational sessions that we attended. And then we also helped and held some community events, such as our movie at our local community movie theater. We played The Engine Inside, we had a clothing drive, and we helped with our local Jemez Mountain Trail Run this weekend, and we helped pick up trash and sort through the trash. And then I focused a lot on media outreach. I did this by submitting every event and action we did to our local newspaper. We made an Instagram and YouTube, and we sent out surveys and flyers to our social media and local newspaper too. And this helped us to inform community members about electrification and helped us get a lot of support. And then lastly, we hosted a flow workshop at our local teen center for teenagers with Bill Barron and Sarah Mason, and we were able to talk with teens and discuss about climate change, and it was really good. Next slide, please.
And finally, we just wanted to wrap this up by explaining what our next steps are, what our plans are for round 2 in electrification. So upcoming club leaders will be revising our resolution alongside our superintendent to prepare for our next presentation to the school board in the fall. We wanted to make sure all the issues the school board had with the resolution are resolved. Everyone is on board, and we make sure we know what grants are available, where the money will come from, so it's not such a financial burden on future boards. Next, we want to gain more community support with surveys and petitions. We've had so much support from our community and so many members of the community speaking out in favor of our resolution and our work through the Eco Club. Next, we want to keep in touch with community members and continue to host community outreach events. It's been so great to see people so supportive of our efforts and in some ways are inspired to do their own efforts of environmental activism. And finally, we will be attending the CCL Summer Conference in DC and presenting during the Student Summit. We are incredibly excited for this trip, and we're excited to make new connections, learn, and just advocate for the environment. So thank you all so much for having us. That's the end of our presentation.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Charlotte and Ariane. Inspirational. All right. The third and final of our youth presentations is from Novato, California, the Bay Area. And fun fact, my 2 kids now in their 30s are graduates of the Novato Unified School District, all the way from elementary through high school and Novato High. So this one's got a special touch for us. So please welcome Danya Subramanian and Noella DeFranza. Danya's a junior at Novato High School. Noella's a senior at San Marin. And their adult advisor, Al Grimet, is also on the call with us. So thanks to you, Al. Danya and Noella, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us to present today. My name is Noella DeFranza. I'm a current senior at San Marin High School. And for the past 2 years, I've led my own climate change club called the California Youth Climate Leaders. And we really focused on a variety of projects from recycling programs at our school, habitat restoration, and getting involved in our school community in general. And when Danya approached me with the Great School Electrification Challenge, I was really interested in trying to get into the climate policy side. And so I'm really glad that I did, because we were able to do this awesome project for the past few months since the school year started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danya. Unfortunately, my camera is not working today, so I'm just going to be here virtual, but I'm a junior at Novato High School, and I also have my own club at school called Sustainable Youth Leaders, where I've focused on waste management for the past 1 year, and now we really just opened up to more climate action, climate advocacy in the school community, and I'm also a commissioner on the Sustainability Commission of the City of Novato, where we're working on our climate action plan. So, yeah.
Ready for the next slide?
Yeah. Okay. So for our resolution, first we came up with the idea of like, why do we want to focus on electrification? And Danya and I are really passionate about climate change from our work in the sustainability sector in community service in our area. And so we both came to the idea of electrification because we wanted to kind of get to the root problem of climate change, which is our reliance on fossil fuels. And so if we can inspire and hopefully create some action in our district to switch to sustainable methods of electricity, then we can help tackle an issue that's local to us and hopefully inspire other districts to do the same. So inside of our proposed resolution, we had a few clauses in there about electrifying transportation, such as implementing electric school buses and helping to electrify the bus fleet that we have, electrifying buildings by including new equipment such as ovens and cooking equipment in some of the school kitchens, and also generators in the buildings, as well as like HVAC systems, and also landscape maintenance equipment like switching from gas-powered leaf blowers to electric ones, etc. And we got a lot of support from our community. Being in Marin County, there are a lot of really great climate groups, such as 350 Marin, Sustainable Marin Schools, the Sierra Club, and many others.
Yeah, so also a little bit about our process. As I said, I started on the Sustainability Commission this past fall, and from there I was approached with this project from Julia Janaway and Al, and that's where I started working with on this project to really give back to the community and make sure, as Noella said, we really wanted our school district to be a leader in climate action. So once we started working on this project, we right away we reached out to the board trustee members that I had some connections with the board trustee members, so I reached out to them and we went on 2 calls with them, and we really collaborated well with their CFO Joshua Braff, and there were some disagreements along the way with like finances and grants and such, but we really made sure that our team put together some resources and grants and other opportunities f- for it to be easier for the school district, and those were some things that really helped us continue with the process. And then yeah, so it was actually a pretty speedy process. I'm really grateful for the board of trustee members being really supportive and being on our side with this resolution, and we were able to pass it in April unanimously with all the board members that were present. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Noella and Danya, congratulations. At this point, I've got a couple of slides coming up that try to summarize some of these and also present a lesson learned from a recent interaction with the school board. But before I dive into that, I wanted to pause and see if there's any questions for the youth presenters, and in particular from some of our school leaders that are here, Alan or Mitch or Mike, if you've joined us. Welcome you to throw any questions out.
Thank you, Pete. I'll start with a question. This is for the student leaders that were here. What did you see as being your largest single obstacle that faced you as you began to move and talk with school leaders to move this forward? What was that one big rock that you had to move out of the way in order to move this process forward? Anyone?
I know for our project, trying to get our resolution passed in Novato, like Danya mentioned, one of the biggest obstacles we encountered was trying to find the balance between radicality and also practicality. We really wanted our resolution to, create positive changes in our community and really entice our district to make changes in the step toward fully electrification. But unfortunately, when we had some discussions with the chief financial officer of our district, we ran into barriers regarding like cost and especially because our district is facing some budget cuts, I think, next year. So cost became a major issue when it came to trying to balance out what we wanted to include and what we thought would be actually passable when it came to be presented to the board. But eventually we settled on something that Donnie and I still believe is reflective of what we really wanted in our goals for this project, but also something that is practical and realistic for the school board, at least in our area, to accomplish in the next few years.
Just as she said, cost is always the biggest, at least for us, cost was always the biggest issue for passing the resolution. And even though we did get it to pass, the cost factor was brought up greatly, especially due to the fact that our school district was in about, I think I'm correct, an $80 million budget deficit. So that is a huge gap between the amount of money we want to spend and the amount of money we have to spend. But student leaders need to emphasize that this isn't just, we're not just changing, we don't want to change our energy sources because it's a thing we can do, but it's because we need it in order to survive. And that although this might be harder on the budget at a certain time, it has a possibility of paying out. There are grants that we can have and funding that we can use, such as from the Inflation Reduction Act, but also that it is what we have to do in order to slow down climate change.
For our school district, for Los Alamos High School, I would say our biggest obstacle, at least right now, is our school district isn't really reliable. They won't show up for meetings. We'll plan them ahead and they'll answer emails and then they just won't show up. And it's just been really hard, but I think we're going to work through it this summer and hopefully it'll get better. But yeah, that's our obstacle.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Alan.
It looks like we have another quick comment there, Pete. Somebody who raised hand. Alex?
Thank you. I think it's a question for Los Alamos. You mentioned the facilities director was opposed to your ideas, and I'm just curious how your conversations have gone with that person. And if you have any tips for how to get past somebody objecting, like the facilities director. Thank you.
Yeah, so we had one meeting with him and he didn't come prepared. We showed him our resolution ahead of time and he just didn't say anything and he just said he didn't want to do any of it. And then a few months later, we made another meeting with him and he ended up not showing up. We had it scheduled. He said he'd come and he just didn't show up. So we're still working on it. And we're just also looking for tips on what to do because it's been pretty hard to get through to him.
Jay?
Yeah, maybe it's kind of a two-part question. One was, just curious, because I saw on some of the slides where you were working with some other groups. and kind of bringing that voice to the table to, help maybe have folks attend, or, leveraging those other organizations and what you did, and would be interested in how you thought about that and how you did that. And then the second piece of that is the role of, the mentor. And did you see that as a valuable role in terms of assisting and organizing and kind of pushing it forward? Thanks.
For our group, we have been working with the elementary schools a lot, and we've been working with a specific group called the Global Warming Express. And this has really helped us because we've had people from like different schools. We're a relatively small school district, but we've had, when we presented to the school board, we had the little kids come up and they presented a speech because their school is actually being renovated right now to have solar panels on it. So they really want it. And it's been like really helpful and good because we'll have these kids coming from elementary school up to the middle school and then to the high school, and they'll be able to carry it on for us. And we've been also trying to get it at the middle school too.
All right, fantastic. Thanks. Why don't we take one more question right now, and then I do have a short segment that's a bit of a wrap up. So Alex, go ahead, and then I'll take off.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you all for speaking about this. It's great. I wish I had this in my school. I know that there's a lot of problems to get people, involved in all that. Money is a big issue. Have you ever thought about going to professionals in terms of sustainability consultants? Because this could be potential business for them. So they would love to help and, just try to get the people of the school board more involved. In terms of there's a lot of incentives through the Inflation Reduction Act. There's a lot of things. Some people really know a lot about it. Some people know how to apply them to schools, and that could mean business for them. So it's like two birds with one stone in a way. So this is something you can think of. I know there's like an organization like ASHRAE, which helps, they want to do business with high schools, as part of one of their programs. And as part of ASHRAE, they have a lot of professionals who are always trying to look for jobs. So this is a little something, to keep in mind.
So our club has looked specifically into that with the help of Chris Heckman, because our students in the club, we don't know exactly all the details of the cost and the pricing that's going to happen with a renewable energy transition. But Chris he focused on us pushing in our speeches the idea to the board of having a renewable energy consultant or a sustainability administrator in our district, because I think we have around 60 school buildings, and if we had one administrator whose whole job was to just organize sustainability in the district, it would help the implementation of the resolution go by much quicker.
All right.
I can also add for Novato Unified School District. We've been really it's great that our adult ally Al has given us many consultants and programs and resources that we have sent to our district, but it's the matter of the district really reaching out and utilizing all of those resources that we send them, because we're finding them, but sometimes the district office and the CFO, they're taking some time to really look into all the resources that we're providing for them. So that's also one hiccup that we come along the way.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Danya. All right, thanks, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and try to sort of wrap up. One of the things that I found, I was an adult advisor to the Green Schools Campaign, a youth-led initiative in Long Beach, and they had been working for a couple of years, and then 2 years ago, were able to get a resolution passed here in Long Beach, and not only a resolution, but a board policy. And I think one of the key things that helped, and Alan, I'll ask you to validate whether I'm on base with this or not when we get after talking about it. But one of the things that was resonating with that school district and governing board was similar to what we've heard of concerns from all the other school districts presented here tonight. So the resolution that these students were seeking basically boiled down to these two bullets. We would like 100% clean renewable energy in our electricity sector by 2030 and clean energy for HVAC, cooking, and transport by 2040. When it was phrased that way, it sounds complicated, complex, and expensive. So first of all, the school board said, yep, we hear that you want us to stop the destruction of the planet. We hear the urgency, but do you understand that we need to be realistic about timelines? And the board said, we want to do actionable things, not just lofty sounding goals. And they were concerned about cost of replacement, kitchens, vehicles, et cetera. So the overarching concern there, I felt, was the need for greater clarity. I typed clarify, sorry about that, greater clarity and more specific language. And the reasons are, the orange bullet is, when you talk about clean renewable energy on your electricity supply, it's tough for schools to control that. And schools, like almost every other electric customer, are really dependent upon the utility for the majority of their electricity. Yes, we can install solar on a lot of school campuses and other buildings, but we really rely on the electricity sector for that. So the school district doesn't have control over that part of it. On the other hand, the second bullet, the HVAC, cooking, and transport, those items are directly under the decision-making control of any enterprise. And so when we let me go ahead. So this presenting this Rewiring America concept and showing how it lined up with the replacement of existing equipment, furnaces, water heaters, stoves. There's already a recapitalization schedule in place in nearly every enterprise for that. And all of a sudden, the perceived cost lines up with things they're already budgeting for. And that made a huge difference in the level of understanding of what cost lay ahead. So I felt that was significant to the school district and both the executives and the board. So with Novato, I'm sorry, with Long Beach, the request for a resolution went further to a board policy, and there were three primary areas. New construction, there's a commitment to zero emissions machinery. For existing built environment, there's a commitment to phase out fossil fuel machinery as they can in accordance with that recapitalization cycle, and a similar thing for vehicle emissions. So this is not intended to be an eye chart, although it looks that way, but it's to show this is how simple it can be. It's a 1.5-page policy at Long Beach School District that lays out the guidance. Now, and then here's the celebration when the policy got passed a couple of years ago. And then finally, after the overarching policy gets passed, the guidance in that policy is already implemented in further detail in the facilities master plan and in the subsequent district-wide sustainability plan, which we see here. So one final thing, I've been intrigued by this and started looking around the nation. So I went to the source of all knowledge, Wikipedia, and found their list of the 100 largest school districts in the US. And I grabbed the top 40 or so of them and put them in a slide here. But I was looking for, what do each of these school districts have in place as far as a sustainability plan, a climate plan, anything like that. And I've only made it so far through the first dozen or so, and near the lower right, the half a dozen that we've worked with in CCL that we've heard about. And there's in many of these large school districts, there are resolutions or climate plans already in place. Some of them are not directly worded as climate, they're environmental stewardship policies, et cetera. But there's good progress around the country in schools, but it's a really inspiring place for us to work. Finally, here's some additional guidance. Not just CCL is realizing that schools need help, but Rocky Mountain Institute, Rewiring America, U.S. Green Building Council, New Buildings Institute. There's a ton of resources out there to help look at this. And I think one of the things that's most significant is in terms of cost, most of the equipment that we've talked about, furnaces, water heaters, vehicles, there's a small to a somewhat significant cost premium for the replacement capital cost. But the operating costs are substantially lower in almost every case. And if you look at a total life cycle cost, you're going to be better off within 3 to 5 to 7 years in the vast majority of cases. That can still be a challenge because you've got to come up with the recap money up front. The Inflation Reduction Act with its incentives and then many state incentives help us a lot with that. So thank you. And with that, I'll stop sharing the screen and let's see here. And we can wrap up with some more Q&A. So again, thanks very much, everybody. Other questions?
Hey, Pete, congratulations to all the student presenters. They present better than I ever can, so I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
second that.
Yeah, this is really congratulations, you guys. You're doing a wonderful job. I just wanted to mention one quick thing, if I could, that for the facility director, if there's, like, Sophie, did your facility director go for your plan? Because maybe you could connect that facility director with the Los Alamos folks and they could have a chat.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. So I'm not exactly sure if the person who we worked with has a specific title of facility director, but I think the person who we worked with was called the operational manager. And they were very supportive, and they were the one who encouraged Chris to bring students
Yeah,
to present. So yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
sure.
Yeah, you know, Pete, if I could take a moment. First of all, I want to introduce myself to the group. My name is Alan Rising. I'm the Business Services Administrator for Long Beach Unified School District here in California. Long Beach is currently the 4th largest district in California. And I'm kind of pleased that we made it on Pete's list there. I think we're number like 52 in the nation or something. I don't know, lose count after a while. So been doing this work for schools for the better part of my adult life. I think I'm broaching on almost 40 years working for a school district. And so just throwing, yeah, I know I saw you look there, Sophie. I saw that look. So yeah, I'm old. Yeah, that's what that means, right? So just some comments I'll say out there for all of you that are out there trying to move this work forward. As a facilities person, to give you kind of a little bit of a look behind the curtain, what's going on, right? So number one is every school district in the nation is struggling with costs, right? And when you approach someone to do something different, the first thing we begin to think about is how are we going to do that, right? And especially when we start talking about doing something different like this, which has a lot of unknowns to it, right? It has a lot of, we're not exactly sure how we're going to meet this goal, because in many cases, the commercially available technology to meet these requirements is not readily available. And I know Pete and I have had conversations about this. I use this term meaning commercially available, which means I need to call my vendor and say, give me this, and they can ship it to me, right? There's a lot of technologies that don't exist to get us to some of these goals. And then when you approach a district and you say, I want you to agree to hit this goal by 2035 or 2030, that's a really tough pill to swallow when we don't even understand the roadmap on how to get there. So that's going to be something that you need to be thinking about as you approach these facilities executives. They don't have a lot of dollars, right? Secondly, as you approach our school boards, despite your passion, the passion of everyone on this call and all of us, including myself, on dealing with the reality of climate change and the work that we need to do to right the work of our industrialized nation, we are just one voice amongst many that are approaching our school districts for various different priorities. Everything from math and science programs to athletic programs to school safety to everything in the world that's out there. And your Board of Education is balancing all of these voices that are approaching them. And every one of them have one thing in common. There's a cost associated with them, right? And they're all trying to balance which of these can we do and which can't we do. So your job is to look where there's a nexus, there's a cross of opportunity and funding that you can leverage into, right? So when you're approaching a school district, understand what you're asking them to do. I think Pete mentioned in our conversations, be specific on what exactly you want to do and be realistic on what that means, right? Our group came to us and said they want 100% electrification by 2030. I looked at my watch and I said, it's 2023. Are you serious, right? 7 years to completely transform over 70,000 students' classrooms into 100% electrification. That's not even possible for us to do that kind of work in that amount of time. Who's going to pay for all that? Where are we going to do it? So let's go back and let's actually begin to talk about realistic timeframes, because I'm of the belief that one step in the right direction is a step in the right direction, right? So we had this goal of saying 100% electrification by 2030, but you know what we said was, let's push that out a bit and let's caveat it with as funds are available for us to recapitalize our facilities. So what that means is that as we do things, we will do things the right way. But I have schools that I just invested in significantly, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Do you really expect me to go back out and tear out all that new equipment we just put into a school and replace it just for this ideological approach that I need to go 100% electrification? That's not very cost effective for what we try to manage in school districts where we don't have enough dollars and money, right? I'll also caution you that there was some suggestions about bringing in consultants. Consultants are great, but if I had a dime for every consultant that called me every day with something to sell me, so most facilities directors walk into consultants with an air of caution, right? What are you trying to sell me today? You know, it's like they're like used car dealers, right? They're just trying to sell me something that they want to get off their lot, right? So you just need to walk into caution. Nothing against consultants. I use them. I've been doing this work for a long time, but understand that a lot of facilities directors will build this wall. They'll build this little bit of a barrier when they start talking to consultants because they're used to getting sold a line of goods, right? But again, also understand a lot of times, like in our group specifically, they approached the district and they absolutely wanted a board resolution. That was all they were going to stop for. We want a board resolution. And what we finally had the group realize that a board resolution is just some words on a piece of paper, right? What you really want is you want to change board policy. You want to change school district policy. You want to change the work that they do in the actual trenches. And that talks about maybe it's your maintenance policies, maybe it's your facilities group, maybe it's different portions of that. Yeah, get into your budget, right? Change your budgeting policies, right? That's really where you're going to have the biggest traction to be able to make some meaningful change. A board policy, I mean, I'm not trying to make it light of it, but it's words on a piece of paper, right? Let's talk about the actual board reso is a words on a piece of paper. Let's talk about policies that actually change the work that we do in a day in and day out basis. And so the last thing I'll say is keep reaching out, right, to that facilities director that seems to be a bit resistant, right? Keep reaching out. You know, I don't know the person, but he's most likely not a bad guy. He just has a lot of things coming at him. Keep reaching out. Be very positive all the time, right? Don't get frustrated. Reach out to him and say, when are you available to meet? Let's continue this conversation because this is important. And let's face it, everybody who works in a school district recognizes that the students are my customer. They're the people that I'm here to work for. And so when you come to them and bring issues to them, they should be listening to what you're asking for.
Thank you for what you said. That was very helpful because one thing which I've always struggled with, especially this year with the challenge, is that I honestly don't know what I'm talking about all the time, because I often would say in my board presentations that there's funding available with like the Inflation Reduction Act, but I don't know the specifics, and that makes me feel like a weaker presenter. And my argument isn't strong enough because I can't back it up specifically. So that's one thing which I want to work on for next year when we go back to the board to just talk to them further about the resolution, is making sure I am more educated on what I am presenting about. And yeah.
No, I was going to say, so understand this, there's funding available. Rarely is it 100% funding.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Rarely is it 100% funding. So there will still be a financial contribution for the local district to put into that work, right? IRA money is a great example. At most, I'm going to get about 40% of my dollars back on my new solar that I'm building, which means I still am going to contribute a little bit more than $10 million towards my 3 megawatts of power that we're building as we speak. So yes, there's funding available. Rarely is it 100% funding.
Okay. Yeah. And right now, it's been a while since I've communicated with the facilities director, because that was mostly Chris who was doing the communication of that. But I think definitely getting back with him, because he was very receptive to our idea. But I will definitely talk about the idea of changing current policy instead of just focusing on the resolution, to see how we can wrap the resolution's ideas into more than the resolution itself, into getting it into all the policy in general. And I think that with the receptivity that the board showed us, we might be pretty fine with that.
Yeah, I think Pete mentioned it in his presentation that every one of our districts has capital monies that we're spending in our school facilities each and every year, right? Where that money comes from might be different depending on where you're at in the nation. There's different laws depending on from what state you come from. But every district out there is pouring capital dollars into their facilities. It's more of changing policy so that what we do in the correct way, right? So don't think of it as I'm creating something new. I'm creating a new responsibility or a new direction. Just let's look at what we're doing and let's just make some minor changes to the way we're doing it so that it's being done in the proper direction. So
Thank you.
I'll remain quiet.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much. Thanks, Alan. Really appreciate your insights. I humorously thought about this as, you know, the students are like entrepreneurs going to the Shark Tank, and now we've heard from one of the sharks on the feedback on the proposals. So, and yeah, I really appreciate everybody joining us. Again, big congratulations to all the students working on this important thing. And thanks to Alan and Mitch and folks like you all doing the important work of providing appropriate space to educate our public school students, and emphasis on public. So thanks. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and stop the recording and thank everybody, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Fantastic.